Welcome to the Do Good on Purpose podcast, conversations with leaders responding to the defining challenges of our time, and a way to support the solutions alongside them through the show's Giving Circle, where you can contribute whatever amount feels right and together be part of advancing real solutions. I'm your host, Dorothy Stuehmke. Do you believe in second chances? I'm talking about real second chances, the kind where you truly believe in someone. Because for too many young people, there was never a real first chance, not because they lack potential, but because the systems around them weren't built to support them. And sometimes the people who understand that most deeply are the ones who have lived it. John Valverde is one of those people. As CEO of YouthBuild Global, John is helping young people reconnect to education, to work, and a renewed sense of possibility. What makes this conversation so meaningful is that the work is so deeply personal for him. John's own journey, including 16 years incarcerated as a young man, has shaped how he understands both the barriers young people face and the potential they hold. And today, he's leading a global effort grounded in something simple but very powerful, that every young person deserves not just a first chance, but the grace of a second one and a real pathway forward. In this conversation, we talk about what it takes to rebuild opportunity, what's broken in the systems meant to support young people, and what it looks like to truly believe in someone's potential. John Valverde joins us now. So I'm just going to jump right into it, John. I'm going to ask you a question that I think will frame our overall discussion and that I think really sits at the heart of what you are spearheading for YouthBuild Global. And that is, on the one hand, I'm hearing that employers say that they can't find good workers out there. But then on the other hand, we know that there's this massive youth unemployment crisis. I mean, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released data this summer that stated the rate of youth unemployment in the U.S. is 8%. That, to me, sounds pretty high. And it's actually, I think, 1% higher than it was last year, which signals that things are not getting any better. This, to me, seems like a very big contradiction. Employers saying they can't find good workers, yet there being this massive unemployment crisis among youth. So can you provide some context here?
Yeah, it's a great observation, and you're spot on for sure. And I'll of course communicate and respond to this point via the Youth Build lens. But you've framed already clearly that this is about all young people, not just Youth Build's young people. For us specifically, I think we think about opportunity, and you've probably heard me say this before, but I believe all young people have talents, gifts, and intellect in equal measure, but not equal access to opportunity. And sometimes in addressing your point, sometimes we focus on opportunity being the job, the placement in employment. We think of it a bit differently than that. Yes, of course, that is an issue, but we also think about opportunity in terms of opportunity for training, for earning credentials, for gaining skills, for being seen, heard, understood, respected, valued, establishing high expectations for young people. That opportunity is a huge issue for 16 to 24-year-olds who are not in school and not working. And without that opportunity, they can't even think or consider working for one of these employers that are looking for talent. So I just want to be sure to address the two opportunities here, the actual placement in employment and the opportunity to have a really positive educational and training and skills development experience, which is what YouthBuild tries to do. The other piece is that we have a false narrative problem in our country and even around the world about young people, and especially 16 to 24-year-olds who are not in school and not working. And that false narrative leads employers and even teachers to not see young people for the power and potential they have to build the skill sets and mindsets they need for lifelong learning, livelihood, and leadership. And these narratives, as you know, they take 30, 40 years to form. It is so entrenched that we view young people, even good good people view young people in the situations like the young people who are part of Youth Build before they expand and transform their lives, we see them via a deficit lens. And when you see a young person via a deficit lens and you don't see their full potential and what's possible for them, you don't even think that they're qualified for an opportunity with one of these employers. And the employers just don't see them as an opportunity for someone to strengthen their companies. Those two issues, the lack of opportunity for training, skills development, and that piece of it, plus this narrative shift that we need to drive in the world that is taking time, where it's positive, it's moving in the right direction, but takes time. Those two issues are really what are creating this opportunity divide that we're seeking to address via Youth Build.
That's so well explained. And just kind of to build on that, when you look at the data on disconnected youth, as I understand it, right?
Now, more recently, we're using low income and disadvantaged youth. But yes, the disconnection language really gets at it's 16 to 24-year-olds who are not in school and not working. And for Youth Build, Dorothy, the Youth Build young people, they're not in school because they didn't complete high school. So it's not that they completed high school and they never went on to college and therefore they're not in school. These are actually young people who need the high school credential to even qualify for some of these jobs with the employers that we hope will give them that opportunity.
What would you say surprises people the most about these individuals?
Yeah, it's I'll tell you a quick story and then I'll connect it a little bit more. When I first started 9 years ago here as president and CEO, I would visit local programs and I would think, oh, they're putting like their superstar student, young person in front of me every time until of course you do 40, 50, and now hundreds of these visits, and you realize, wow, these young people are all amazing. And what I want you and your audience to know, it's incredible what happens when a young person who did not have a positive experience in the public education system lives in a disadvantaged, under-resourced community where there's higher crime, higher substance misuse, higher numbers of health disparities, foster care, systems involvement, all of those things that we know are part and parcel of some of the communities that struggle in our country. When you take them out of that environment and you put them into a program like Youth Build, an experience like Youth Build, and surround them with caring adults trained in developmental relationships and with the belief in the power and potential of young people and seeing them, hearing them, seeking to understand them, someone who's even grade levels behind a high school credential, let's say they're scoring at the 6th grade level, you will see in months, not years, a young person ready to take the high school equivalency or the actual diploma. And that's what I want everyone to know. The power, especially between the ages of 16 to 24, the power of a positive experience with caring adults who are trained and believe in these young people. Their brains are so resilient, their spirits grow and become so strong so quickly that I think what surprises people the most is that someone who was not working, did not graduate from high school, maybe dropped out of high school, has never worked, has struggled economically for multiple generations in their family. They go through a positive experience like Youth Build and they're ready for anything. And they start believing that anything is possible for them. And don't we want that for all young people?
That's so well stated, and I can feel the passion in your voice. It's pretty incredible the work that you're leading. And I think there are a lot of assumptions out there about these youth. What are some of the invisible barriers, the ones that the public doesn't really see, that really hold these youth back and prevent them from getting that education or entering the workforce?
Yeah, one for sure is when you're not surrounded by adults who see you for your potential, who have that deficit lens. Any of us, Dorothy, any of us, if that's the way people view us, then we will respond in kind, right? And we will sadly live into that false expectation of who we can be. And that's very true for young people age 16 to 24 and the young people in Youth Build. So that's one piece of all of this. And I'll say to you with a heavy heart, I mean, it's not a week goes by, Dorothy, where there isn't some tragedy, where a young person was involved in a crossfire of a shooting in their community because they so often live in crime-ridden communities where there's more violence, where there's more guns and weapons, and there's more substance misuse, and there's more trauma, and there's more broken families, and there's poor education opportunities and lack of resources. Those conditions create an environment that is very dangerous for our young people. And when you think about a young person, we would do this often when we enrolled young people into Youth Build. We would ask about their living situations and we would say, how many people live in your home? And they'd answer 7. How many bedrooms in the home? And they'd say 2. And we'd ask, well, where are you sleeping? And they'll respond, well, I sleep on the floor, or I actually couch surf and I sleep wherever I can because I can't be in the house. We don't have enough room in our apartment. When you think about housing instability, the exposure to substance misuse and violence, when you think about the economical challenges that they have, the food insecurity that they have, it's a miracle that they make it to Youth Build at all. And Dorothy, the number of stories that I've heard now over 9 years about young people who travel hours commuting to get to their Youth Build program. I want the audience to understand also not just all these great things that they're amazing that I said earlier, their commitment to have a positive experience in their lives, like Youth Build. They need it. They want it. They'll work to get to Youth Build despite all the barriers that they're facing. But it's a miracle how many of these young people are facing adversity and overcoming it on a daily basis to advance their lives. And it's really important the world understands that.
So I want to shift a little bit here and talk about your origin story, because I believe very deeply that we all have some sort of lived experience that we're bringing into the work that we're doing and that motivates us and gives us the passion to show up every day and serve the way we do in this sector. And, you know, John, I was watching a video that you have on your website of YouthBuild Global. There's something that you said in the video, and there was such emotion in your voice. You said something to the effect of, never let anyone define you only by the worst thing you've ever done, but by who you are today and who you can be in the future. And that just jumped out at me and it really kind of struck me. I'd love for you to just share a bit about your own turning point in your life and how you found your way to Youth Build.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thanks for sharing that quote. I so believe in that. And well, I'd love to share it in the form of, where does my Youth Build story begin? And, I think all of us love that kind of thinking about our trajectory in life. And, I was raised by a single mom in New York City, struggling to make ends meet. Pretty generic story so far. She's amazing. I adore my mom, and she's 87 now, and I still aspire to make her proud, every single day. And we struggled, as a young person, I struggled, but I was really good in school and I got good grades, and my mom was a stickler for those things. And I made it all the way to college despite all the challenges, because we depended a lot on the kindness of family and friends for a place to live, a place to sleep, the support that we needed as a family, the 3 of us, my mom and my brother and I. And I won a full scholarship to college, and I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be the doctor that worked for a professional sports team and ran out onto the field when a player was injured and then do the surgery to get them back on the field and see them succeed again. And when I was 21 years old, I had been in college already a couple of years at that point. My girlfriend at the time was raped here in New York City. And with the anguish and anger that I felt over that, after having gone to the police on several occasions and being told that there was nothing they could do because she had not gone directly to the hospital to address this, in my anger and frustration, I confronted the man who raped her and I killed him. I went to trial. And it was a highly publicized trial here in New York City. It turned out that this individual was a serial rapist in New York City and had over 2,000 victims. And I went to trial, and ultimately I was acquitted of the charge of murder, but convicted of the charge of manslaughter under extreme emotional distress. And I was sentenced to 30 years in prison, of which I would have to serve a minimum of 10 years before I would be eligible for parole. And at the 10-year mark, despite a perfect record inside, I was denied parole, and I wasn't released until after having served 16 years in prison. And early on in my incarceration, I had been estranged from my father at the time of my arrest. I reconnected with my father, and he said to me, accept full responsibility for your crime, seek to make amends, and say yes as much as you can to help others, and you will find purpose and meaning and be free. I didn't know what he was asking me, Dorothy. I really didn't. All I knew was that I wanted a relationship with my father. And I went about doing my best to say yes to everyone I could help. And this is very connected to everything we're discussing today. The average reading and math level for incarcerated people, at least in the New York State prison system at the time that I was incarcerated, is 5th grade level. And so coming in with a couple of years of college under my belt, I was the most formally educated person probably in the system. And I landed at Sing Sing Correctional Facility, which was a blessing. I know that sounds probably a little crazy to say that it was a blessing to land in one of the most infamous maximum security prisons in the country. But because of its proximity to New York, it had so many volunteers and more programs and educational opportunities, including college. So I was able to not just answer my father's call to contribute and serve and make a difference in that world, in the environment that I was in. And it is like a city in its own world and inside a prison. I was also able to advance my education, my vocational and career pathway training, develop myself as a leader, received the wraparound supports and counseling supports that I needed. And I was given the opportunity to do community service, contribute to the world that I was part of. As you may know, I just described the Youth Build model. So while I am not a Youth Build graduate, my story is a Youth Build story because Youth Build is about second chances and frankly, really first chances for young people. And I feel so grateful to be living out my own second chance as part of Youth Build. And beyond those experiences and opportunities I was afforded in prison, right? And that's what Youth Build tries to afford young people who aren't even getting those opportunities in their own communities. That I was able to have these opportunities and take advantage of them. I completed my bachelor's degree while in prison. I completed my master's degree while in prison. I have a degree in urban ministry. A master's is the equivalent of an MSW in social work from New York Theological Seminary. So I graduated from seminary as well. But I also went on to create 2 nonprofits that exist today, both focused on higher education for individuals who are incarcerated. And I was the first incarcerated person in New York State to take the law school admission test, the LSAT, the first to be accepted to law school while still incarcerated, the first to receive adjunct professor status from Mercy, now University, back then it was Mercy College, and Nyack College as an incarcerated person to be a professor, and I taught for 10 years at the college level. And I always jokingly add, and I won a few soccer championships while I was inside as well. So, you know, I just described an experience in a maximum security prison, where I was incarcerated for 16 years. And it probably doesn't sound like I was in prison, but this is the power of giving individuals an opportunity. And so today, I am the first formerly incarcerated CEO of a nonprofit with a global mission. And sometimes people add, this isn't my line, this is what they told me, and one that is not focused on the criminal justice system. It's focused on young people. And that young people can see me as an example of what's possible for them, and that they can, through me, experience no one should ever be defined only by the worst thing that they've ever done, but by who they are today and who they can be in the future. And they embrace that to believe that anything is possible for them. And then society and employers and teachers and others see the full potential and the power of giving a second chance or a real first chance to a young person in Youth Build. That's me saying yes to make a difference in the lives of others and honor my father's wish for me. He passed away 20 years ago in an accident while I was still incarcerated. So he never had a chance to see me home or free or successful, maybe the way the world describes success. But I know he died knowing that I was already free because I was contributing and serving and making a difference. So I continue to do that every day at Youth Build, and it's an honor to serve.
Thank you for sharing that story. I mean, it is so powerful, and I'm sure that it gives you the perspective to be able to connect with the youth in your programs. What do you say to them? When you were incarcerated, did you believe in your own potential? Did you have the capacity to do that at that time? And what do you say to these youth?
Yeah, it's a great question, and on the did I believe in myself point, remember I had gone to college on a full scholarship. I had a good high school experience, which is very different than the young people of Youth Build. They didn't have such a positive experience. And yet I still was not emotionally ready. And I still didn't believe in myself the way I needed to. And that's important to remember too. The brain science is very clear. 16 to 24, the brain development and adolescent development at the time is critically important to future success for individuals. And our brains are not fully formed or mature until the age of 25. So 16 to 24, that we can engage young people that age. The truth is, even with all opportunities or more opportunities, I didn't believe in myself the way I needed to. So that young people come to Youth Build and someone says, I believe in you, and a spark is lit inside them, and they run with that because they feel the care and support and belief in them, critically important. So what do I say to young people? I guess a story I can share that maybe responds to that. I've shared my story, of course, with many Youth Build programs and young people. And at the time, by the way, Dorothy, I did not know at the time of my appointment that 1/3 of the young people of Youth Build self-report having had involvement with the justice system, so that they'd been arrested or been on probation or have been incarcerated in a jail or a prison. I did not know that. So that's why when I was asked to interview by a recruitment firm that contacted me, I actually recommended 6 people I thought would be great for this role. And then about 12 people contacted me and said, John, you need to apply for this. You'd be great for Youth Build. And I applied never thinking that I would get the job, but out of a commitment to my own learning and growth and having an experience, which is something we believe is super important to model for young people. And I end up being appointed right after 3 months of interviews with 32 different people in 4 different cities. And my 7th interview was 3.5 hours long, all of that. And so what I say to young people out of that experience is, do you want to be someone that people say to you, Thank you for being someone I can count on. And they most often say yes to that. And then I say, so that's what it means to be accountable to your self, your family, your youth build program, your community. If you're about that, that's why you're here at Youth Build. And that's the example that I want to offer to you, that we're grateful and excited that you said yes to Youth Build. And now we're counting on you to be the person and the leader that we need you to be, and to take full advantage of this opportunity and really run with your second chance, because Youth Build is about second chances and you're getting it here. So we're excited you're here, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
That's great. Why don't we now shift to understanding Youth Build's model? So, if you could walk us through the types of programs that you have, how they're set up, how do you find these youth? How many youth are you serving? And I know you recently went global. You used to operate just across the United States. So tell us a little bit about that.
So very, very briefly, our origin story. In 1978 in East Harlem, our founder asked young people who were basically idle, hanging out on the corners, not in school, not working. She asked them, if you could transform your community and had adult support, what would you do? And they said, we'd take back the abandoned buildings, we'd rehabilitate them, and we would build affordable housing for our neighborhood and our community. Youth build affordable housing. That's where our name comes from. So our roots are in construction and rehabilitating communities and buildings. The thing that's really important to name about that story is that we asked young people, what would you do? Believing that those closest to the problems are also closest to the solutions, and also seeing the power and potential of these young people to lead, contribute, serve, make a difference in the world. So it's really important to ground us in that as I describe what Youth Build is, because from that experience of hands-on construction work, it turned into they actually also need some education and the high school credential. Hey, if they're going to be doing this and they're contributing to their communities, shouldn't we add leadership development to this? And it seems that there's housing instability, substance misuse issues, trauma, food insecurity, and all these other barriers, as we discussed earlier. So they're going to need some wraparound supports. And we need to build a comprehensive model to support these young people, because it can't be just an education track or just a career pathway track. It needs to be the wraparound, holistic view of the young people and their potential to achieve anything they want in life and have the opportunity to do that like anyone else. So Youth Build from 1978 started expanding outside of New York. And what happened was that we became a federal program. So probably many in your audience have heard of Habitat for Humanity. They're a federal program, but Youth Build is right underneath them in the federal budget, also as a line item in the federal budget. But the difference, the reason folks know Habitat more than they know Youth Build, is Youth Build sits inside a United Way, a YMCA, a community college, another nonprofit organization or government agency. So I want to say that out loud. So we've been around for almost 50 years at this point. We've been evaluated dozens of times, 40 times at least. And our young people find us after all these years, mostly by word of mouth, because of the strength and power of being an anchor institution in the communities where Youth Build exists. And there are 340 Youth Builds all over the world at this point. So we're well known in communities, but not as well known, even though we're that big and we're a federal program throughout the world. But what I want to be sure to name to you is that the comprehensive Youth Build model, as I named about my experience in prison, we support young people in reclaiming their education. so that they can complete their high school equivalency or their high school diploma. We offer career pathways training. It used to be just in construction, right? Youth Build Affordable Housing. Now it's in manufacturing, logistics, energy infrastructure, healthcare, hospitality, IT, many different sectors. It involves the support services that they need, these wraparound supports to address the barriers that we've been talking about, the leadership development that we've named, primarily to include service to the community. Actual building units of affordable housing for the community is one way, but also contributing to the community in multiple ways. Senior centers, food pantries, recycling programs for computers for children, all of these things is what the leadership component involves. And finally, alumni success. So it's very, very comprehensive. But the key to it all, Dorothy, all of it, is that those essential components are built on a foundation of love, what we call youth build love. And maybe it sounds mushy, but what we mean by youth build love is the respect the young person feels, the agency that they experience at a youth build program, the high expectations that they're held to, which sadly, very often they haven't been held to those expectations, and the sense of community and responsibility to be a leader in their community. That's what we mean by love. And with that foundation, the caring adults around them, and the comprehensive model I just described, the opportunity for employment or the opportunity to get the training, skills development, credentials, and other things I named earlier becomes real for them. And again, these young people excel when there's a comprehensive model rooted in love, and the outcomes are just amazing and miraculous in many cases, and continue to inspire me every day.
Just to summarize, your programming is really about giving these youth, regardless of their circumstances, the confidence, the leadership skills, the educational support to go forward in life and succeed and work in partnership with their communities and just be leaders who can show up and thrive despite the environment in which they live.
Super well
Okay.
said, and so perfect. I'm glad that the message was received so well by you. And Youth Build is unique in the world as a network. We're not just a federal program. We're also a network that exists in rural areas, urban areas, suburban areas, tribal areas. We're in other countries outside the US, and we're one, if not the only network that operates at the nexus of three spheres of education, workforce and career training, and the positive youth development that young people need to excel.
So that's really important to understand, I think, for our viewers, because you are very differentiated from other organizations and that you're operating in those three spheres to give
That's
youth
right.
that sort of holistic, as you said, that 360 kind of support that they need at such a delicate time in their growth when their confidence is
Absolutely.
low.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Tell me a little bit about someone who's really stood out to you. I'm so curious about the profile of someone who has gone through your program, and how did they come out of the experience, and what have they gone on to do, or who have they
Yeah,
gone on to become, really?
I love that. I love your framing of that. Wow, there are too many stories to tell. I'm grateful to be able to say that, right? Youth Build works, and we see the power of Youth Build when a young person engages what's possible for them. And I think that the stories that come to mind the most are the number of young people who have gone on to become elected officials. So here you have a young person, and I've described the circumstances in their community and all they've had to overcome and the resilience they needed to build. They have this incredibly positive experience at Youth Build, complete their high school credential, get some training, and then decide that they want to go back to their community and represent their community and be an elected official in their community. I'm really grateful for the stories of our young people who have become elected officials. We have over 220,000 young people who've completed Youth Build over the years. So we've got a lot of success stories to share. But the other one that I love so much is the number who go on to work at a Youth Build program. The few, there aren't a lot of this example that I'm going to name now, but there are also a few who've gone on to found their own Youth Build programs and be the executive director or CEO of their Youth Build program. And then different than that, but also super exciting. Maybe they started as youth counselor at the program, and today they're the CEO of their Youth Build program. So those are three examples of the incredible life journeys that young people embark on, beginning not believing in themselves, not believing in what's possible for them, not believing that Youth Build or any program can really make a difference in their lives, and then taking the action to gain the skills, to get the results, to get the confidence, and doing it over and over again. Act, skills, results, confidence, to be an elected official, start your own Youth Build, be a CEO. They're better examples than I could ever be.
That's incredible. And 220,000 youth who have gone through your program is quite a number. So my next question for you is around what needs to change in the vision for the future. If you could redesign the youth opportunity landscape tomorrow, where would you start?
Yeah, it's such an important question, Dorothy. I think I'll frame it this way. I think we're all in agreement and clear on the importance of children receiving a high quality education and early childhood learning, the whole child approach. Everything that I've described should be applied to a younger population than 16 to 24-year-olds, like the young people and youth. So I think the biggest step that I would take is ensuring that is as strong as possible in every community throughout the United States, and in our case, the other countries we work in. Our job has always been to put Youth Build out of business. We don't believe Youth Build would be needed if a young person had the kind of positive experience in the public education system or their own educational experience as a child. If they had a different experience, they would never have dropped out. It would have been very different there. But also, as you know, this is why the systems change element is so important. The barriers are real. And so we hesitate to reference our young people as at risk in that way. We prefer to describe them more as people with significant barriers to their success. And we need to work together to remove those barriers so that they can be and achieve the full potential that they were always meant to achieve and become. And so the systems change effort that we work to promote is that stronger education system with supports, with a comprehensive whole child approach. And then, so that's one piece. The challenge that I'll name for you that I hope your listeners and audience take into consideration. What do we do with the 5 million young people age 16 and 24 for whom that's no longer possible? They're not children anymore. They can't have that educational experience anymore. And 250 million young people age 16 and 24 outside the US for whom that's no longer possible anymore. So I just think it's really important as we work on the systems change to revamp what's possible for young people earlier. And when they're younger, we cannot forget 16 and 24-year-olds who are continuously left behind. And Youth Build, even with us being a federal program and the resources that we have, we're serving 10,000 young people a year. I just shared 5 million in the US, 250 plus million outside the US. One way to say it would be we need more youth builds in more places supporting these young people, or we need the Youth Build model to be scaled and be a beacon for all youth serving organizations and school systems, etc. That I could say it that way as well. But the need is tremendous, Dorothy. The need is tremendous. And for us to meet that need, it's going to take systems working differently together to create these opportunities when they're younger, and then Youth Build and other programs catching these 16 to 24-year-olds to support them in the way we're doing now so that they can be and become all they can be.
So you've sort of walked through the biggest challenge, I think, right? What gives you hope then? I mean, especially in this moment, you did talk about being a federal program. I know you've been receiving federal funding for a very long time. There are many nonprofits that have suffered from all the changes at the federal level. What gives you hope in this moment?
I reflect on this quite a bit. As you can imagine, the work is very challenging, always is, and it has been a really challenging year for us in the social sector, for sure. What gives me hope is the young people and the opportunity to saying yes to resourcing them with the skill sets, mindsets, resources, supports that they need to be the leaders that our country and our world needs. And if we can resource these young people to be courageous and bold and loving and to be leaders and contributors, that gives me so much hope. And that's what I believe YouthBuild Global and the entire YouthBuild network is doing each day with young people on the front lines in their communities to develop these incredible young people to be the leaders that transform their families, their communities, and the world.
And so for listeners who feel really moved by what you've shared today, from the core issue that youth are facing and struggling with, to your origin story and the passion with which you lead this organization in today's moment, to the model and how it's evolved over time. If our listeners want to support your organization through My Do Good Giving Circle, what would their donation support?
Right now, in particular, we are deeply committed to ensuring that our young people can stand powerfully in the face of the future of work and the technological disruptions and opportunities that are presented by AI and other tech right now, and ensure that our young people can get not only that first job after their experience at YouthBuild, but that second job. That job where they're getting promoted, they're experiencing advancement. So a donation to YouthBuild right now is to ensure that all our young people have access to AI education, the certifications that they need, including project management that we believe is future-proof. I know nothing is truly future-proof, but also to the training and development of staff at YouthBuild programs. Because the other challenge that I think we're faced with in the world is when young people enter a program or an environment or an experience where the adults are not trained to be the support and believers in them, in their full potential, with the developmental training and approach and relationship development approaches that YouthBuild offers, the young person just doesn't have the same experience. So training our staff, supporting local programs on their career pathways and educational offerings, ensuring young people have access to the credentials that they're going to need in the face of the future of work, and also supporting us in developing and being a bridge to the private sector and the employers and companies that are going to give an opportunity to our young people to experience economic mobility, thriving, and futures they never imagined were possible.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today on this podcast. Thank you so much.
It was wonderful to be with you.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode on the Do Good on Purpose podcast. And if today's conversation inspired you, please consider supporting the work through the Do Good on Purpose Giving Circle, which is linked in the show notes. And if you really enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Share it with someone who believes in building a better world, because change rarely happens by accident. It happens when people decide to do